What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm your host here, Haize. On today's episode, we'll be talking about Zach LaVine and Alex Caruso's rankings on the top 25 shooting guards in the NBA list, Lonzo Ball on the point guard list, or is he? And we'll also talk about where Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan ranked on the most dominant players per position per Bleacher Report. And then lastly, I'll be giving my Chicago Bulls Mount Rushmore, and I want to hear from you on yours as well. Let's get into all that and more on today's Chicago Bulls Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
All right, Bulls fans. So first up, thanks for joining. We are 10 days away from the 1-year anniversary episode dropping, which will be hosted by Petty Roosevelt, hosting a roast of apparently me. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be a fun episode. I can't wait to drop that one. We've got appearances from a lot of other Bulls content creators as well. So be on the lookout for that. But outside of that, let's go ahead and move into the content for today. So Zach LaVine ranked number 4 on Hoopshype's list of the 25 best shooting guards in the NBA. Alex Caruso also ranked 20th on that list. And while I feel like, I have some issues with the list overall, I feel like Zach LaVine's ranking is pretty fair considering this is based off last season, heading into this season. Zach did have an injury last season, so I do think he can move up. But more interesting is that they ranked Devin Booker number 1 as the best shooting guard in the NBA, followed by followed by Donovan Mitchell as number 2, and then Jaylen Brown number 3, and then Zach LaVine being number 4, rounding out the top 5. Anthony Edwards at number 5 as far as the best shooting guards in the list. Bradley Beal was number 6. Klay Thompson was all the way down in number 13, ranked even below Jordan Poole. DeJounte Murray ranked number 7. CJ McCollum number 8. Tyrese Maxey number 9. So overall, Desmond Bane number 10. The list is a very interesting list. Surprisingly, they had like Jordan Poole, Tyrese Maxey, Tyler Hero all ranked above Klay Thompson at the shooting guard position. Which is a little surprising for me there. But, Zach LaVine being ranked number 4, and even more surprisingly, Alex Caruso being ranked number 20th. I love where Alex Caruso is ranked. Let me be clear. The fact that he's in the top 20 of anything, and listen, this is Hoopshype. It's not like it's the biggest publication either, but I just do find it interesting that that's where people kind of view what the Chicago Bulls have on their roster at that shooting guard position. Of course, Kobe White didn't make this list at all. But that being said, Zach LaVine being ranked number 4, being ranked above Bradley Beal, a player that, Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine, Devin Booker have all kind of, fluctuated as far as like people talking about top shooting guards in the East. In the NBA. But definitely Bradley Beal, Zach LaVine talked about who's the best shooting guard in the Eastern Conference. I kind of like where everything sits right now. I do think that I have Zach LaVine right now above Bradley Beal. I know some people may disagree with that, but considering the fact that, once John Wall left from the Washington Wizards, they really haven't done much. That's similar to what Zach LaVine did when he did not have very much around him either. Now, I do think that Bradley Beal is a better playmaker, better decision maker down the stretch as well. But overall shooting guards, and I do think that Zach LaVine is going to be top 10 in the league in scoring this season. He was 12th in the league last season, having a hurt season. I do think he can be top 10. I'm not going to say easily. It's going to absolutely take work. Hopefully those efficiency numbers get back to being where they were the season before last as well, with him being healthy, full health the season for Zach LaVine. But these rankings, I think, for the Bulls players were pretty fair. It's just interesting how other things ranked as well. Let me know what you guys think about the rankings down below. But, shout out to Zach LaVine for getting that notice, getting that ranking. We'll talk about also where he ranked as far as the most dominant players and another list by Bleacher Report. But Hoopshype has Zach LaVine as the number 4 overall shooting guard in the NBA. Let me know what you guys think about that one. Down below. Let me know what you think about the list overall. Do you think there are any other players that were ranked too low? Like, I think Klay Thompson at number 13 is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. I know he's dealt with health issues and concerns and things like that, but it's Klay Thompson. And I definitely can't get with like Jordan Poole, a player who was on his team and is still on his team, like being ranked above him. That's just something I don't see, but everybody has their own list. I want to hear from you guys down below on what yours is. Now, Hoopshype also released their top 20 ranked point guards in the NBA, and Lonzo Ball did not make that list at all. No appearances by Lonzo Ball in that top 20, which was kind of weird to me. I do think, especially, what came out recently about Lonzo Ball and his shooting. His shooting splits are some of the best in the NBA as far as like over 40% at every type of shooting field that he can be in. And it is what it is there. We also know the defender that Lonzo Ball is. He's at this point, by statistics and every ranking that we've seen, a generational defender damn near. So it was weird not to see him on this list. You got Luka Doncic is number 1 on their list, Trae Young number 2, Ja Morant number 3, who I would rank Ja above Trae Young in my opinion. You also have Steph Curry coming in at number 4, LaMelo Ball number 5 on the list, Cade Cunningham number 6, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander number 7, and then you also have Dame at number 8, Darius Garland at number 9, and DeJounte Murray at number 10, who was ranked on both the shooting guard and point guard lists, which makes some sense, right? At this point in the time, in the NBA, it's positionless basketball. A lot of players play multiple positions. But that list is an interesting list to me. You got Chris Paul all the way down at Chris Paul ranked number 15, Marcus Smart ranked number 16, Josh Giddey already at number 17, Jalen Brunson number 18. You got Jamal Murray number 19 and Ben Simmons number 20. No Lonzo Ball appearance at all in that list. And I would personally rank Lonzo Ball above Ben Simmons, considering if you're taking what they did last season in consideration, Ben Simmons didn't even play last season. We still don't know what's going on with Ben Simmons. Is he even playing this year? So, that's why I said that they went only 20 rather than 25 on this list. I do think Lonzo Ball should have been ranked, especially if you're ranking Ben Simmons number 20. Like, come on, man. He didn't even play. We don't even know what's going on with him. But let me know what you guys think about that point guard list. Do you think that is glaring as well, that Lonzo Ball is not ranked in the top 20 point guards in the NBA? Let me know what you guys think about that one down below. But moving on, so Bleacher Report had their ranking of the most dominant players per position. While Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan did not rank in their respective positions in the list in that, what they did rank in is they did get honorable mentions at their list. So Zach LaVine got honorable mention at shooting guard. As far as the shooting guard list and what they had, number 3 was Donovan Mitchell, number 2 was Paul George, and number 1 was Devin Booker as the most dominant point guards in the NBA, with, like I said, Zach LaVine getting an honorable mention on that list among players like Jaylen Brown, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as well, getting all honorable mention at that shooting guard list as far as the most dominant players at that position. Now, what I think here, Zach has to prove it, right? Zach has to be healthy. He has to get back to being efficient. He did flirt with being that 50, 40, 90 player as far as that offensive efficiency. He also needs to kick in the defense, which we know as well. Stop the little ball handling issues he has, dribbling off his foot, make better decision makings down the stretch like that. It's good to see him in the honorable mention on this list. I can't really argue the fact that those other players listed have had more playoff success for one. Devin Booker going far. We know once he got added with Chris Paul, Paul George, who's done great things. Donovan Mitchell is always one of those players that you can make an argument that he shouldn't be listed as far as most dominant because, he has had a great center to cover up, some of his defensive limitations. We'll see how that goes now with that trade that went down and the new look Jazz. But looking at it for me, just kind of surprised that Donovan Mitchell made that list over a player like Jaylen Brown, even if we're not talking about Zach LaVine. But the most dominant players at the small forward position, number 3 was Jimmy Butler, number 2 Kawhi Leonard, and number 1 Jason Tatum, with honorable mentions going to DeMar DeRozan, Brandon Ingram, and Chris Middleton on that list as well. Pretty solid list there. Kawhi, health is quite a bit of thing. Jason Tatum, it makes sense being number 1. Jimmy Butler also makes sense being on that list, so I can't really ignore that. DeMar DeRozan, definitely a dominant player at his position. We know what he did, but he has to show it in the playoffs, and I think we're starting to see a lot of that reflected in the list as well. To talk about the other positions, most dominant power forwards in the league, they have number 3 as LeBron James, number 2 at Kevin Durant, and then number 1 at Giannis Antetokounmpo with the Milwaukee Bucks, with honorable mentions at that position going to Pascal Siakam, Karl Anthony Towns, and Zion Williamson, who again, Zion didn't play any last season. Let's see what Zion gives us next season. And then the most dominant centers in the NBA, they gave it to number 3, Rudy Gobert, number 2, Joel Embiid, and number 1, Nikola Jokic, who, listen, 2-time reigning MVP, he definitely should be number 1 at that position. It makes sense for Joel Embiid to be number 2 as well. Rudy Gobert being number 3 kind of surprised me a little bit, but again, considering what his defensive numbers are and the fact that he's not, people talk about Rudy Gobert like he's terrible offensively, but his offensive efficiency has been pretty solid as well. Rounding out that honorable mention list is Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis, and Domantas Sabonis are ranking out the most dominant players at that center position in the NBA. Again, let me know what you guys think about this list down below. Do you agree, disagree? Do you think some Bulls players should have been listed on the honorable mentions that weren't? Sound off on everything down below. So let's go ahead and get into the next topic. So one of the things going around on Twitter yesterday was the Chicago Bulls Mount Rushmore. And anytime a Mount Rushmore thing pops up, it's an interesting conversation to have. I'm not going to act like it matters to a degree, but it was an interesting thing that did pop up. So I want to hear from you guys. Who are on your Chicago Bulls Mount Rushmore? Keep in mind, only 4. Don't get into listing 5 and 6 players. Who would be your 4 players listed on your personal Chicago Bulls Mount Rushmore? Some of the players mentioned by some other people. Joe Cowley, for example, he mentioned on his list, it would be MJ, Pip, Gilmore, and Jimmy Butler was some of the people on his list. Some of the people listed on On Tap Sports, they had, of course, MJ, Scotty, Joakim Noah, Derrick Rose, with an honorable mention going to Kirk Heinrich as well. I kind of agree with On Tap Sports list here. If I'm looking at my Chicago Bulls Mount Rushmore, Scotty and Pip have to be on it, right? We know they're going to probably be on every Mount Rushmore. Joakim Noah, who is my favorite Bull of all time, absolutely is going on my Mount Rushmore. And then you got to give it to the MVP. You can't not give it to the MVP and Derrick Rose. So while that may be a typical list, I can understand people having people like Bob Love on theirs as well. Just depends on how much of that era you kind of understand you've been around. But I definitely, that's my Mount Rushmore. If I had to give it an honorable mention, it wouldn't go to Kirk Heinrich for me, even though Kirk kind of deserves one. But I think it would go to Jimmy as my honorable mention. If we're going to give 4 for sure, and then an honorable mention, it'll go to Jimmy Butler for me. Looking at where he was selected, what Jimmy Butler turned into. No, you know what? I got to take that back. Let me not buy into that. I got to take that back. That goes back. I'm not giving my honorable mention to Jimmy Butler. I'm not doing that at all. My honorable mention is going to Dennis Rodman. Even though not a Bull for a long time, part of a three-peat, won titles here, had some of his best seasons of his career here in the Chicago Bulls. So yeah, I'm giving my honorable mention to Dennis Rodman. All right, so that is it. Not for the show overall. I do have one more topic that I want to get into you guys with, and that is looking ahead, right? A lot of Bulls fans have talked about, the lack of movement this offseason. And I understand it, right? I've talked about it as well. We did expect. I did a whole series of videos on free agents and possible ones. And the Bulls didn't really go after that. But the Bulls do have, as I've said before, renouncing rights of Kobe White and Nikola Vucevic, or just not re-signing them or them signing with other teams. The Chicago Bulls can have $20 million in cap space next season. And one of the things that we have seen, some people may say, well, why would the Bulls renounce rights of Nikola Vucevic? Here, I got an interesting point with this, right? Keep in mind here, so follow me. We saw, for example, the Orlando Magic renounce the rights of Mo Bamba and then turn around and did sign him with cap space. If the Bulls do see a marquee free agent next offseason that they want to sign, that they have to use cap space for, they can renounce the rights of Nikola Vucevic, but still bring Nikola Vucevic back using the mid-level exception. And some may ask, why do you do that? Well, if you do that to free up and have that true cap space, keep in mind, as long as you don't renounce rights, or if they don't sign with another team, you don't have that cap space to sign players into that. So they technically could renounce the rights of Nikola Vucevic. He would have to be in agreement with this and know what's going on to go after a marquee free agent, and then using that mid-level exception to then bring Nikola Vucevic back, at least part of that, depending on what type of money he does demand. So with the nature of that being said, how does that rank amongst other teams that can have considerable cap space next season? It doesn't put them high, right? You got a team like the San Antonio Spurs that could have $45 million in cap space. The Detroit Pistons, who could have $60 million in cap space if they want to maximize it. That's if they waive Kelly Olynyk and then Alex Burks, Noel, they can have $60 million in cap space. The Orlando Magic, even with what they did this offseason, could have $50 million in cap space. That would include waiving Jonathan Isaac, Mikal Fultz, Gary Harris, Mo Bamba, and Bobo, who they all can get to that point. The Indiana Pacers as well could have up to $50 million in cap space. So the Bulls aren't set. The Utah Jazz also could have $40 million in cap space. So that doesn't put the Bulls as far as having tons of cap space comparative to other teams that are going to have cap space. But if you look at it, especially the Bulls being a playoff team, having a core here, that $20 million in cap space, who could they go after, right? And this is looking way too far ahead, right? But this is to kind of contextualize, and so people who aren't really capologists can know what the Bulls can do. You have players that they could waive, still bring back if they could. They could still bring back Nikola Vucevic on that full mid-level exception if he decides to sign for that amount of money while getting full cap space to go after players. Some of the players that are going to be free agents next season that could use that. Miles Turner, player that a lot of Bulls players have mentioned. Miles Turner could be one of those. Harrison Barnes. Again, Harrison Barnes, I think, wouldn't be a day one free agent signing. Brooke Lopez is set to be a free agent. Jeremy Grant, D'Angelo Russell, who no point in being interested there. Christian Wood, also free agent next season. Karis LeVert, Al Horford. These are a lot of players. Jokic Porto, right? Poto, who a lot of Bulls players want as well. A lot of these players could be free agents next season. So would the Bulls, we've seen AK and Eversley get creative with the cap space. Could they use that $20 million to go after one of them? And then even still, if they want to bring Nikola Vucevic back, use that mid-level exception to bring them back. It could be an interesting thing. This is why I say it's checkers, not chess. Yes, the Bulls didn't make the move that a lot of us thought they were going to make this offseason, but they have so much more flexibility in next offseason, looking at some of the things that they can do with getting creative with how they use their cap space. We'll, of course, cover it. They could free up more cap space with making moves, things like that. We'll cover it, right? We'll continue to cover it and monitor it, but it is something that I wanted to put out there and mention that the Bulls could do to get creative with the cap space that they have available. Let me know what you guys think about that one down below, but that is it for me for today on Chicago Bulls Central. Thank you so much for being the best part of Chicago Bulls Central, whether you're viewing on YouTube, watching on or listening on the podcast side, or doing a mixture of both. Thank you so much for being a part of Chicago Bulls Central. You can follow the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text and or voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys, not because of me. And I love you guys. Like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. Peace, y'all. And see red, people. See red.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.